And joining me this evening on 6 p.m. Prime is Dr. Anish Andheria, President of the Wildlife Conservation Trust. Dr. Anish, thank you for taking the time out and joining us here on India Today. Far few national channels, unfortunately, are talking about this, but it's extremely concerning that 24 tigers have died in a matter of 39 days or so. Now, while these are not really connected, Dr. Anish, there is a concern because in some of these cases, it's been because of poor tracking, because of the Forest Department being unaware. Some of these tiger carcasses have been found days later.
Yes, I think if you go by statistics, last year about 138 tigers died in the entire year. And if you go by the rate that we see now, which means 24 to 26 tigers dead in just 38 days, if you multiply it and if you kind of extrapolate it to the year, we could lose about 240 tigers, which is more than 100 tigers more than what we lost last time.
Shocking.
So definitely, as of now, if you look at just this first 38 days, it is a matter of concern. However, one must understand that India is one country, but the states are managing their forests and the tiger in their own different ways, which means that the Madhya Pradesh, the Maharashtra, and Karnataka, these three states are in my mind, and also Uttarakhand, these four states are the true tiger states where a lot of government programs are being dished out so that communities and tigers can coexist. There is good amount of protection inside the tiger reserves. The populations have gone up, and soon, and obviously the tigers are spilling over. There are a lot of tigers along corridors as well in both Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh.
Exactly.
And so there you can understand, if you're looking at Maharashtra, as per the last year's figures, there are more than 350 to 360 tigers, of which more than 150 tigers are outside. And so they are within stone's throw of a human habitation. And so the risk to the tiger is extremely high. This is not a secret. Everybody knows that. And which means that the department has to be on its toes throughout the year. You cannot
But that's my question, Dr. Anish. Are they prepared to do that? Look at what's happened, for example, in a Ranthambore. Because, you had a tiger cub dying there because the tigress had given birth in a field. So the Forest Department had no clue that she had even given birth to 3 cubs. It was the villagers who knew and then informed the Forest Department. And these kind of issues have cropped up in several parts of the country, in several wildlife reserves, where they're supposed to be, equipped to deal with this kind of an issue, particularly to track tigers.
So tigers are very difficult to track. One must remember that they are elusive creatures. They are not like lions. They live a solitary life, and they are very elusive. So everybody knows this, which means the Forest Department has to be prepared to monitor tigers on a weekly basis. And there are the entire tiger habitat is divided in beats, BEATS, and there is a forest guard per beat. So in those tiger-worthy habitats, the states have to put in systems in place where every guard should know how many tigers there are in the beat, and a beat size could vary from 6 to 7 square kilometers to sometimes 25 square kilometers. And it's not a small area for 1 or 2 people to man. And so there is going to be always challenges. So how going forward can India, see, there are problems. How do we solve these problems? The first and foremost is to make sure that the human-wildlife conflict, which means the conflict between the dispersing tigers and people, is brought down. Most of this conflict is because tigers, when they go out of the tiger reserves, they feed on cattle largely because there is no wild prey or very little wild prey. Because of the anger of then the loss that a poor family goes through because of death of a cattle, they can easily poison the carcass, and a tiger will come back to the same carcass to feed, and our entire tiger family can be wiped out if the kill was made by the female, which means the compensation has to be given at the right time. People have to slowly be moved away from cattle herding because it's no longer a lucrative business. A lot of what cattle are giving them is just dung, not really milk products. So there has to be at the policy level phase out of cattle industry in most of the non-productive areas. I'm not talking about Gujarat and certain states where cattle is turning out a lot of income.
But Dr. Anish,
Another thing is
there's one more
livelihood.
point that I'd like to raise with you. When you're talking about human-animal conflict, what comes to mind is what's happening right now in Karnataka also, where 2 members of a family have also been killed by a tiger. Again, the result of the fact that you have villages so close to these reserves. The other issue is about the spread of these tigers. At no point are we trying to suggest that because of these deaths, there's a serious crisis with regards to the tiger population or their numbers. That's a healthy number right now in India, yes? Is it populated the right way? Are these numbers more concentrated in some parts than they should be? Is it spread out the right way?
Yes, that's a very, very important question. So there are 18 tiger states in India. Tigers are found in 18 different states, and India has about, as per the last numbers, it is close to 2,950 tigers.
Yeah.
And most of these tigers come from 6 to 7 states. Overwhelmingly high number of states, about 10 states have substandard tiger populations. Some of the states have actually lost all their tigers. So many tiger reserves don't have tigers. So I can count them straight away. Buxa, Dampa, Namdafa, Palamu, Kaval. There are so many tiger reserves which are on paper tiger reserves but no tigers. Which means
exactly.
the tiger population in the country is an outcome of good governance in just handful of states. So if the tigers have to be protected and if we have to sustain this population, keeping in mind that the conflict will go up with time as the forest outside degrades, because the forest is degrading every year, the forest is being destroyed outside. Number of people living outside is high, the poverty levels are high, so the conflict is going to be high, and people can easily predict that there are several models. So the government will have to come up with solutions. The populations have to be dispersed. If there are too many tigers in the corridors, and corridors are not places where tigers can start breeding, because there will be huge conflict. I'll just give you an example in Maharashtra. To the east of Tadoba, there are 604 villages, and within a kilometer of those villages, and this is a reserve forest, there are a lot of forest patches there. There are more than 50 adult tigers and nearly 30 cubs. So 80 tigers living within 1 kilometer
In such a circumstance, a conflict is bound to happen. So clearly from what you're telling us, there is a need for a rethink, no matter what, from the government's perspective really, of how a population, the tiger population, is really handled right now. I've run out of time, but Dr. Anish, thank you very much for joining us.